What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Fantasy Guru Elite NBA Live Now show. I think it's something that we're calling it. So we'll see how that sticks. Maybe we'll get a sponsor for this show. What do you think, Dad?
Yeah, that sounds good, man. We could do like they do on TV Live with El Jefe and Rad Thad, sponsored by
Mountain Dew.
I don't know. Yeah, Mountain Dew sounds good, man. I like that.
Yeah, nerds love Mountain Dew, right? Geeks to just sit on their computer and play Dancing Fantasy.
Absolutely. Dude, I drink the stuff whether I'm thirsty or not, man. It's awesome.
Whether I'm thirsty or not. So good Saturday slate of NBA basketball here. We've been crushing. Optimizer's been crushing. I assume you had a decent night last night because you nailed the show.
Yeah, I had a pretty good night last night, more so on FanDuel than DraftKings, just because I tried to get a little cute with my studs and scrubs, and I went ahead and rostered guys like Roy Hibbert, which, first of all, we all know better. And number two, even though those lineups were basically garbage, it did give me a little bit of peace of mind. Like I was telling you last night, it gave me a little peace of mind that things are okay with the world. I'm not really losing my mind. So I was willing to take a loss on that one for the sake of comfort. But yeah, man, things have been going really well. It's only been 4 days. Someone on Twitter mentioned or proposed the question about when do I start ramping up my bankroll. So I thought that was a good topic for us to kind of discuss. Even we only just we don't have that many games today, but I think it's something that's important to discuss whenever you see fit. But yeah, man, 4 days, I'll take it. I'd rather have 4 good days than 4 bad ones, so it's all good.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, I think that is worth talking about. Someone had asked me a similar question at the beginning of the season as well. I mentioned that at the beginning of the season, I go kind of light and kind of just, play things by ear, make sure I'm getting a good read on the situations and everything. I watch a lot of game film, so make sure I'm on top of who looks good out there and who looks like they're going to be struggling, whatever shows up, whatever doesn't show up in the stats. And that takes a while to get super confident, like I'm not playing in the 1Ks right now or anything. I'm just playing in like the slam and going pretty heavy on the cash games and stuff. And as we wrap up later in the season, you'll see me in the 1Ks. You'll see me playing the Qs and stuff that hopefully get announced soon. And for now, I actually think it's just a good time to take it easy. What about you? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I think for me, the only time I ever consider changing my bankroll playing is right after football season ends. The people that are playing right now obviously love basketball, and even the people that are playing basketball for the first time, they pick up things pretty quickly. So I don't want to really try to hang my hat on people that are kind of degenerates like I am when it comes to basketball. When football ends, there's usually a pretty significant rush of people to basketball, and those people are kind of late to the game, so to speak. Those are people that don't realize that George Hill plays for Utah now, and we've already figured out who has high usage and who doesn't. So right after that, the first week or so, I might ramp it up just a little bit. But in general, I try to keep my bankroll the same all the time. Like I said before, four games is awesome, to have. But there is undoubtedly going to be a time where, maybe not all of us at the same time, but at some point individually, we're going to get our asses kicked. It just happens.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And and you're going to forget about those 4 days. I know it sounds weird and it's hard to do, but it's easy to just stay where you are, play the same amount, focus on winning. If you're winning, everything else takes care of itself. So that's what I find out. Trying to change how much you play and all of that other stuff, it always backfires on me. So
yeah, that's the main thing that I've been talking about recently with people being all stoked that the optimizers lineups are crushing, especially on FanDuel. FanDuel, I believe it's 4-0 for most people, depending on when you ran it. And on DraftKings, I believe it's around 2-2, depending on when you ran the optimizer. And again, I'm not even saying to play the exact optimized lineup. I'm saying play around with it, look at that and what we're writing, what we're talking about, and maybe adjust the guys out that we're not super confident in. That hasn't worked out every time. Draymond Green was a guy that neither you or I were very high on the opening slate and ended up being one of the better performers. But in general, I think that we are going to be nailing those guys and helping identify guys that you can maybe take out of the optimizer and plug in someone else. So it's no fun if everyone has the same lineup, guys. Like, you don't have to just play the lineup exactly how it is. Just use it more as a guide and kind of a skeleton for how you build your lineups. Any thoughts on the optimizer right now, Thad?
Yeah, I agree 100%. I mean, also, you especially as the optimizer does well, its popularity will certainly grow. I certainly hope so, and expect it to. So there's certainly going to be a point in time where you're facing somebody else who's also. So what are you going to do then? So if you really want, my goal is to improve my game, period. I want to be able to start nailing this stuff, whether I have the optimizer or not. So it makes a phenomenal tool because, it always, without a doubt, put someone on my radar that I just wasn't even thinking about. And sometimes that person works out great. Sometimes that person doesn't, but at least it gives me more pieces of the puzzle to work with. So I highly recommend it. Highly recommend using it the way that it probably should be used. Otherwise, you're just going to get lazy and just start plugging in the lineup. And then you got to own your lineup. When you click that submit button, when you're spending your bucks on the lineup, you own it. So if it doesn't go off, you can't blame it on the optimizer or blame it on so and so said this or that. Own your lineup, and the best way to do that is to really come up with it on your own.
Exactly. I think that that's a really big key, is owning your lineup. People are tweeting us screenshots thanking you and I for the advice in the shows yesterday and stuff. And it's like, I'm telling these guys that it's, they deserve the credit. Like, you and I are just talking about basketball, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, and don't get me wrong. I would love to be able to take credit for somebody taking down a Q or winning a challenge. You can send me money if you want. That'd be awesome. But I think we all know that I don't have anything to do with that. You click the submit button, and I guarantee you, if you saw a lineup and you thought that somebody in there was hot garbage, you weren't going to be putting that lineup in. There have been people who also tweeted us that, I saw so and so in, I X'd him out and put that another guy in, which is awesome. Whether it works out or not, that's not even the point.
Yeah.
But you own that lineup. That's not my lineup. So,
Yeah, we're trying to teach people.
Congrats to guy. Yeah, exactly. And there's another dude who somebody posted something about little kids' money. I wish I remembered his name, but shout out to him as well. But there's no such, if you win $3, that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as little kids' money. It's a win. It's a win. I was telling Jeff the other day that I think it might have been the first day of NBA where I wasn't even planning on playing anything other than free roll. I had some sort of free thing for FanDuel. It was like $4 tournament or whatever, a free ticket. So I put a lineup in that the optimizer gave me, and I won $6. I was pretty damn excited for $6 that I didn't spend. If I found $6 in my jeans pocket when I took it out of the dryer, you swear I was Warren Buffett, man. $6. So, $6 I didn't have. So there's no such thing as little kid money, man. Claim your team, and when you win, it's always a big win.
I think people just assume that all guys playing high stakes are playing high stakes because of their day jobs or whatever. Like, they just had money from the beginning, but a lot of those guys built their bankroll up to that point. Me, I started off super small stakes, ended up continuing to increase my bankroll to a point where I could start to take some shots at qualifiers and stuff. Ended up getting hot at the right time, winning some qualifiers, doing well in live finals, and then all of a sudden your bankroll's a lot bigger, and you can start to build it from there. As it, when you get a live final boost or something, I won 75K in one tournament, 35K in another tournament. Like, when you add that to your bankroll, all of a sudden the growth becomes, a lot easier. So it
Yeah,
can happen for you
exactly.
guys too. You start small, just like I did, and hopefully you get hot at the right time. But
Yep,
we
I agree.
pretty much ready to get into this analysis of the slate, or what?
Yeah, yeah, let's do it, man. I like slates like this where there's one game that we don't include, so I can actually watch basketball while I'm doing my research. It's actually pretty cool. So yeah, let's get at it.
Yeah, I didn't even get a chance to read your article yet. I saw it up there and I clicked on it and I have it open in a tab separately right now
Yeah,
to remind
yeah, we'll talk
myself
about
to
this.
read that.
Yeah, we'll
You
talk about
know,
the same guys. We'll talk about the same dudes. So with
you think
some new,
so? Yeah.
yeah, some new news that came out for San Antonio. There's another guy that people are going to say I'm full of shit, but we'll see. We'll see.
Nah, man, I trust you by now. But yeah, I mean, I had to do an NFL podcast this morning, get the cheat sheets out, get my own article out. I haven't even had a chance to look at anything else besides some data, and
Yeah,
some
yeah.
news. I told you right before about those Spurs guys, but it's like I'm trying to stay on top of the news, and haven't had a chance to read your stuff. So I'm really curious to talk to you about some ideas off of you. Let's start off at
Cool.
point guard. We are going to go position by position today. I'm going to refer mainly to FanDuel because that's the tab I have up right now. I'm going to be playing on both sites tonight. So I actually will point out some pricing inefficiencies on DraftKings that I've noticed, but for the most part, I'm looking at FanDuel right now. It's a tab I've opened. So the most
Cool.
expensive point guard today is Damian Lillard. He's 9,100 against Denver. I think he is an elite option tonight, an incredible option. He started off the season with 20-plus field goal attempts in both of his games. And both of those games have been pretty tough matchups. One against Chris Paul, one against Utah with George Hill there. This is a matchup in Denver that against Emmanuel Mudiay, a guy that turns the ball over a lot, which is good for Damian Lillard in the steals department, and a guy that also is just not a good defender. So I see Lillard completely going off in this game. One of my favorite high upside plays. What do you think about Lillard?
Yeah, I agree. I think he's due to have his best game yet in the short season. In addition to the other games being tougher matchups, the pace was also down. So I think this is a game that he's used to. This is more of a game that's in his neighborhood. I like the fact that he's the highest priced guy, especially on FanDuel, because I think you can pay up to be contrarian here. He's the highest price, but he won't be the most owned guy. I think that will probably go to Kyrie, or maybe one of the cheaper guys like Frazier, who's been doing pretty well himself. So love Damian Lillard today as a great guy. He's a guy who I mentioned in my article. So certainly one of the top guys on my list.
Who else do you like?
In terms of cash games, I going back to Frazier, he's also in the column. I do like him. We could talk about the Brow situation, especially against San Antonio. We talk about that for about 2 weeks, and the game will be long over by then. So I think the guy that I'm actually more impressed with is Frazier, because we've said it before. The attitude with regards to the Brow hasn't changed. Still got a crazy ceiling. Could be the highest score of the day. Could also trip on a water bottle coming out on the court. Same thing. Same thing applies today. But Frazier, to have a guy who's a stud on your team and then have another guy kind of be the secondary stud and kind of feed off of that first player's, productivity, is something that you really need to take notice of. This guy's still cheap and incredible value, especially on FanDuel. Maybe not as hidden gem, based on his results as of late, but someone that I feel comfortable playing in cash games tonight. San Antonio showed me something with their defense against Golden State, but especially with some of the backcourt guys that are out tonight, doesn't really do them any help in terms of defense. So I think one guy you can rely on tonight is Frazier, at least from New Orleans, is Frazier. So those are my two cash game studs.
Yeah, Patty Mills and Tony Parker, neither are very impressive on defense. They're okay. Patty Mills is a slight upgrade from Tony Parker, but still, I would say below league average point guard defense there. That's kind of the weakness. of the Spurs, I would say. So I like that call a lot. I think that's going to be a fairly popular way to go. I'm going to go back to the well with Jeremy Lin, though, man. 6,200 on FanDuel right now. I loaded him up in my lineups. He almost had a triple double. He had 21 points, 9 rebounds,
Yeah.
9 assists. 45.3 FanDuel points. Playing a lot of minutes, just running this whole offense through him. What do you think about Lin today?
Yeah, I'm going to make a bold call. He's one of the guys that I think is going to have a triple double tonight.
Yeah.
You know, Brook Lopez is out today,
Mhm.
and it's not like Brook Lopez was really like soaking up the usage like I thought he was, but still, he's basically the only other credible scoring threat on the team. So I'm rolling with Lin. I mean, he's already shown us not only in the preseason but with other teams that he's got some skills. So I think he's more than willing to put him to the test. I think with the other options that we named, and the fact that he plays for Brooklyn anyway, he's not going to be heavily owned. So, but like I said, I think he's going to – I'm calling him for a triple-double tonight. I think he's going to do well.
That was a bold call, but I like it.
Yeah.
Did you mention Ty Lawson yet when you were talking about Frazier and stuff, or no?
I didn't mention him, but he's in that same mold. You know, he's definitely taking advantage of the opportunity with Darren Collison being out. Another one of those guys where the usage on the team is very straightforward, and we kind of know who's going to be the guys. And we kind of know who's going to be the guys. And for Sacramento, he's going to be the guy again. So another guy, I didn't mean to intentionally leave him out. That's for sure. He's certainly in that cash game conversation as well, and tournament as well. But he's certainly cash game viable.
Just when you're going to play 36 minutes in your point guard, you know, I've mentioned this the other times with Ty Lawson. Like you have to play those guys. The point guards that are getting that many minutes are going to fall into points. You're seeing that Ty Lawson isn't like necessarily scoring a bunch of points or anything. I don't think he's been in double-digit points yet. I'm pulling it up right now. No, yeah, 7 points his last game, 9 points the game before. It's just that he's filling up the stat sheet with rebounds, assists, blocks, steals, stuff that just happens when you're out on the court. You know, like falling into a steal and a block. Like most players are at some point going to get a steal or a block or something if you play 36 minutes in a game. So I like using Lawson quite a bit in cash games if you need to go cheap. Who else are we missing?
Thing to mention about that the lack of points is Lawson is a guy who can also fill up the stat sheet when it comes to scoring. You know, he's a guy where if I had to choose 36 minutes from Lawson and 36 minutes from another guy who's starting Rajon Rondo, I'm going to pick Lawson because Rondo's just not going to get the points. I think last game he had like a million assists for like 4 points, and that's just how he is. He's one of those Ricky Rubio guys where kind of what you see is what you get. But Lawson has had games where he was either the designated point guard or filling in for someone else, and he's gone ham. So he certainly has it in him. And at this price, I'm more than happy to try it out. So.
Yeah, there's the matchup too against Minnesota. Minnesota was a really bad defensive team last year. They should show some improvement this year. Ricky Rubio is one of their better defenders, but that's geared a lot towards the steals that he gets. I think that's what makes his defensive ratings go up quite a bit. In reality, he takes a lot of chances. So it's kind of like Steph Curry. Steph Curry is rated really highly when it comes to defensive real plus minus, but it's because of the steals. In reality, he's put himself out of position a lot, and his teammates are having to cover for him. But I don't mind picking on this Minnesota defense. But sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Who else were you going to say?
No. I agree. I think three other guys that are on my list for various reasons. Isaiah Thomas, he's in a phenomenal spot. I think it's just because of his price that I'm not really. There are other guys that are better values or projected to score higher, so he's kind of in that limbo. So I don't have him, but I do like him a lot tonight. I like Mike Conley as a GPP option for sure. You know, he's going up. He's basically the only, reasonable guy you can use on Memphis, and he's going up against D Rose, who, I mean, I don't really have to tell most people about D Rose's defense or lack thereof. So I think he's in a good spot to do well. Dennis Schroeder, I like him, but I was kind of hoping that he would kind of explode out of the gate, but he didn't. So I'm kind of still in a wait and see. He's more of a tournament option for me.
Well, they
But
played this morning too.
That's okay. That's right. Good. Well, I don't have to worry about him. So hopefully he did. I'm gonna wait until that game's over. Hopefully he did well, because I'm hoping that he's a guy that I can use in the future. So we'll see. So I forgot about him being part of the early game. But yeah, IT2 and Conley, those are the guys that I'm interested in. So
the one guy I'll mention too is Kemba Walker playing up in pace
yes.
against Boston. You know, we've seen him play in a couple slow paced games, and this could be a good spot for him to kind of let loose a little bit. The box scores aren't impressive, so I don't think anyone's going to be on him. But in reality, he does have quite a bit of tournament upside here. So don't sleep on Kemba Walker. He's not a bad tournament play tonight. Conley, the only thing I'm concerned with there is that they're talking about limiting his minutes a little bit. So they've got, what's his name, Wade Baldwin, the fourth. He might play some minutes tonight at point guard. And kind of just take the load easy on Mike Conley. So we'll see how that goes. I kind of like Wade Baldwin as a really cheap punt play that could play some minutes. He showed up huge in his first game. I didn't really know much about him.
Yeah, I was pretty impressed, actually. I was not expecting that at all. Another guy that I'm just kind of wait to see. But, you know, if he does well, I'm more than happy to start putting him on my radar. So.
He did a 5x3, right? That's what he did. 5 different stat categories.
Oh,
3 or more.
Yeah. That's pretty impressive, actually. It's hard to do by accident. So yeah, I'm pretty impressed. So I have one guy. Else? Yeah, there's one guy that I want to talk to you about. This is the guy that I think people are going to probably say I'm full of crap. But before I do, I need to. You know, I told you I got a bum ankle, everybody out there. So I'm actually in bed doing my podcast, and I don't have my computer plugged in. So they gave me the warning that it's going to shut off any minute. So I'm going to let you take over and talk while I yell to my daughter to get me this cord, because I really got to tell you who this guy is that I like. So I'm going to mute for a second, and I promise I will be back.
All right.
So, all right.
All right. So we've got the whole situation with San Antonio and Patty Mills. And the guys there are going to soak up some minutes for Tony Parker, of course. So Tony Parker and Ginobili are out. Mills is going to get a boost. Simmons is going to get a boost. Danny Green is still out as well, I believe. So that's some minutes there. That's one guy that I didn't mention. We didn't mention the point guard section that certainly deserves some consideration. I don't think he's a must play at 3,900 on FanDuel. He's probably going to play around 30 minutes or so. And at his fantasy point per minute level, I don't think that he is for sure going to reach and exceed value. I think that the usage for Kawhi Leonard, he's at 35% usage, which is ridiculous for him. I think he was around 25% usage last year. So it's not really sustainable for Kawhi Leonard. But in this matchup today with Parker out, with Ginobili out, you could see Kawhi with really high usage once again. So I wouldn't mind going that direction for Patty Mills, but I don't think he's a must play at all. Thad, are you back yet or no? I don't think Thad's back yet. All right, so I don't really want to move on to shooting guard without him, but I'm going to. Shooting guard, we've got Giannis Antetokounmpo up at the top there. He's 9,500 on FanDuel. But in my opinion, one of the best plays of the day. We'll get to it at power forward with Anthony Davis and why I'm going to be fading him quite a bit today. But the guy that I'm using instead, the guy I'm spending up on instead, is Giannis Antetokounmpo. He's facing Brooklyn, and this matchup is good for him because if you look at how Vegas is projecting it, 7.5 point favorites are the Bucks with a 204 projected total. That's projecting the Bucks for a lot of points when they run a slow-paced offense. So when you see a slow-paced team that is going to get this many points, you want to be on these guys, especially Giannis, the guy who's going to be in the middle of everything, does a little bit of everything, fills up all the categories, points, rebounds, assists, blocks, steals. He's going to be doing it all, having lots of opportunities. He played 39 minutes in his last game against Charlotte. I told you guys in my write-up last time and in the show that, look, these slow-paced games aren't going to be a deterrent for Giannis Antetokounmpo, that he was going to have a good game in Charlotte. And sure enough, he had 52.3 FanDuel points. So looking for even bigger things here. Really like Giannis a lot. We can go down a little bit here with Dwayne Wade. Not super interested in him. He's got a pretty good matchup against probably some Monte Ellis defense, but not a ton of interest for me there. CJ McCollum, that is a guy that I would have some interest in. He faces this Denver backcourt, not super impressive, has been playing a lot of minutes, 35 minutes in the game against Utah, 38 against the Clippers, and hasn't done incredible, so probably going to be a little bit under the radar. Everyone wants Lillard today too, so Dad mentioned the pace of this game being another thing that is going to benefit these guards here, so CJ McCollum is a great play, especially in tournaments. Nicholas Batum, not a ton of interest there, but the pace does benefit him a little bit. I would just prefer to go Kemba Walker if I want exposure to this pace on the Charlotte side of things. So not a ton of interest in Batum. You got Monte Ellis against Chicago. The backcourt for Chicago is pretty weak defensively. You got Rondo and Dwayne Wade. Dwayne Wade, at this stage of his career, is not the same defender that he was in the past. So, you can use Monte Ellis. Let me look. I'm pulling up his minutes right now to see what he's doing. So he played 44 minutes in that overtime game against Dallas and only 33 minutes against Brooklyn. He had scored twice as many points against Dallas. So yeah, I'm not super interested in him. I didn't write him up in the article or put him on my cheat sheet. So did do both of which for is Avery Bradley, 5,800. Look at what he's doing the last couple games. He had 34.3 FanDuel points against Brooklyn, 30.7 against Chicago. Right now, when that rotation is extremely tight, as Thad pointed out, you want to get these guys in your lineup. Avery Bradley is a great play, one of the best shooting guard plays of the slate for sure. You can also look to Zach LaVine against Sacramento. Sacramento, for 2 years now, has been a place that you immediately look to whatever shooting guard is playing against them. And I think this is a great spot for Zach LaVine. He had a very nice opener against Memphis, 34 minutes, 29.5 fantasy points. I like him quite a bit. The guy that's my favorite at the position, though, is Will Barton. Going against Portland's backcourt, offensive-minded backcourt, of course. Gary Harris is going to miss this game. Barton in his first, let me pull up his game logs here. In his first game against New Orleans, 35 minutes, 29 FanDuel points. If he gets you 26, 27 FanDuel points tonight in a matchup that is just as good as was his first game, then you are happy. If you get 29 or upwards, which is certainly possible for Will Barton in this matchup, then you are set. You're stoked. Looking further down this list here, Alan Crabb would be the next guy that I have interest in. Again, I'm just on FanDuel right now going through their positions under the Create a Lineup page and just scrolling down by price. Alan Crabb is the next one that pops up. Utah and the Clippers, again, those are the matchups that the Blazers have had, and those are not great matchups, whereas this one is a great matchup for the guards here in Portland. Crabb played 29 minutes against Utah, 32 against the Clippers. Should be good for around 22 FanDuel points, and at 4.3K, that's a reasonable return. That's not going to win you a tournament or anything, but pretty solid cash game punt if you need to go that direction. Scrolling down a little further, still no Thad. It doesn't look like. So I apologize. You guys are stuck with me, just me. Scrolling down, Manu Ginobili is a guy that I wanted to use, but we cannot use him anymore. Make sure you scratch him off of my cheat sheets if you printed those out, and disregard him from consideration. He will not be playing today. That's pretty much it for shooting guard that I'm looking at. Yes, because they've got Simmons and Anderson both listed as small forwards, and that's going to be where some wing minutes are soaked up. So for shooting guard there. Let's move on to small forward. Small forward up at the top there, it is LeBron James, 9,900, and he's facing Orlando. LeBron James is pretty much a good play, regardless of the matchup. And in this case, it's the same situation. We some people were on him yesterday. I recommended him as an okay play. I said that Kevin Durant was a much better play than LeBron James, but you could still use LeBron in cash games. But it didn't end up working out great for people. He had a pretty weak first half, and the second half ended up coming on strong to save himself a little bit. I think Benny's offering to come on right now, so that would be cool. Let me see if I can pull up the link for Benny and maybe get him on here so that we have more than one opinion on who the best plays today are. Bear with me for 1 second. See if we can get Benny on here, and then maybe we'll have Benny and Bad. So after LeBron, the guy that you really want at small forward, the guy that I would be starting off my cash games with is Kawhi Leonard. I mentioned that 35% usage rate, pretty ridiculous against New Orleans, a team that is not known for its defense. Kawhi's at home here. The only concern is the blowout, but I'm willing to risk using Kawhi Leonard with the potential that this could turn into a blowout, because I think the ball's going to be in his hands a ton. And he has turned into quietly one of the best players in this league. He might be a top 5 player in this league. Of course, plays both ways. Really impressive start to the season when the Spurs beat the Warriors. It was mainly because of Kawhi. So love Kawhi here. Jimmy Butler, not a ton of interest in him. Going against Indiana, 8,200. That's a fair price for him if you want to go that direction. It's just like, look, if you're going to pay around that much for a small forward, you might as well just take Kawhi. Kawhi 8,400, Jimmy Butler 8,200. If it would take me probably 20 lineups before I started thinking, okay, let me mix some Jimmy Butler in. But let me see here. Benny is trying to get Benny on the show here. Benny's texting me. Benny, I'm sorry I sent you the wrong link. I'll send you the right one now. Right. All right, let's look at some more small forwards while we're waiting for Benny here. Carmelo Anthony against Memphis. Not the best game for Carmelo, I don't think. I'm not going to be super high on Carmelo this season in general. His opening game was against Cleveland. Saw a little bit of LeBron in that game. Shut him down as I expected. LeBron to shut him down. Wasn't on Anthony then. Not going to be on him in this matchup. 7,800. That's just too much for him right now. I'd much rather go to Porzingis if I wanted exposure to any Knicks. I think that Rudy Gay is a pretty solid option. Not a guy I tend to roster very much, but you've seen him perform well in his first couple games, including a game against San Antonio. The game against Phoenix is about what you expected. 33 minutes, 36.6 fantasy points. Who do I have with me? Benny.
Yo, can you hear me?
Yeah, you here to save me or what?
Yeah, I figured you were by yourself, so I'm on my iPad right now. But yeah, I'm looking at basketball too, so let's get going.
Dude, my savior, dude. You know how annoying it is to do one of these shows by yourself? It's tough.
Yeah, that's why I sent you the text.
You know what you're doing. So I'm a small forward right now. It's kind of going over like LeBron. I don't have a ton of interest in him just because I'm so interested in Kawhi. Like LeBron, Butler, Carmelo, those guys have zero interest for me. I'm all about Kawhi in this matchup. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree on Kawhi, especially with all the news we have of all the Spurs guys that are going to be out. You know, his usage rate this year has been insane so far. So I'm big on him tonight, especially on FanDuel at only 84. You're saving 1,500 from LeBron. You're saving 800 off of Paul George. Definitely on Kawhi. I've been having trouble with the second guy, though. I want to go down. On FanDuel, I feel like Carmelo's kind of cheap at 7,800. So I want to go down there, even though it's not the greatest matchup. The fact that you could save a lot of money by coming down on him to, from LeBron or from Paul George today. Although I like Paul George more on DraftKings where he's cheaper. So it really does come down to price on, whatever site you're playing.
What do you think about going really low to a guy like James Ennis, though? Like 4,100 on FanDuel, 24.2. FanDuel points at 28 minutes against Minnesota. Is that a direction you'd think about?
Yeah, if you're looking to spend up at power forward or point guard today, I think that's a good way to get different, because with the four guys that are up top at small forward, between Carmelo and Paul George and Kawhi and LeBron James, I think a lot of people are taking two guys in that range.
Mm-hmm.
And that means you're going down to like the $5,000-$6,000 range at power forward and or point guard. So I think there's going to be a lot of Tim Frazier, a lot of Lawson. I think you're going to have people on like, Marvin Williams, maybe Taj Gibson, or who else is down there? Jabari Parker. All the guys in that range. So if you go with a guy like Ennis at small forward, you're going to be able to pay up. Another guy who I like at power forward along the same lines we're talking with Kawhi, how do you feel about LaMarcus Aldridge for the same reason that with all these guys out, I think those two are going to get, bumps in usage and see a lot more shots.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I don't know. Like, I'm wondering exactly what exactly Pop is going to do with these guys, because he's got Pau Gasol now. He hasn't been playing Pau a ton of minutes. I'm wondering if Dedmon gets some minutes here to try and stop Anthony Davis. So how is that going to impact LaMarcus? I don't know. I think that it's a little bit of an unknown for me. So I think LaMarcus is a really good GPP play. But since it's such an unknown quantity there, I am staying away in cash games from LaMarcus. Is that fair?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So where are you using Ennis in cash?
I'm thinking about it. I just gave my whole case on why I like Giannis so much. So I've got to pay up for Giannis, and I actually really like Lillard as well. So I might be using Giannis and Lillard. Lillard is the more likely of those two to go. But yeah, I'm actually spending up in weird places. My cash game lineup is not going to look like the standard the chalky cash game lineups tonight.
Yeah, I think the chalk is going to be spending up at the small forward position. Like, I think a lot of people are going to go to Kawhi now, and then I think they're going to put in one of the other three, whether it's Carmelo or Paul George or LeBron, depending on, where you're spending elsewhere and how much money you have.
Talking about Paul George, that he's just a guy I haven't used yet. He hasn't really paid off, so that's good on my part, I guess. Even against Dallas, when I believe that's the game that went into overtime, played 43 minutes, 41 FanDuel points. Like, he's not doing enough with his time on the court. Is that gonna, stay the case, or, this is a spot too against. He's probably gonna see a little bit of or a lot of Jimmy Butler. So, yeah. So what's the deal with Paul George? Do we need to ignore him for now till his price comes down, or? Is this a GPP guy just with a ton of upside that's going to explode?
Yeah, I think it's more a play for me. I actually like him more in cash over on DraftKings. And it has to go back to what we talked about when we had the opening show of the year. Indiana's just playing at such a higher pace than they did last year. And they have such a short rotation where the guys that actually play minutes for them are all playing 30, 35 minutes. So you're getting big minutes from George. You're getting big minutes from Thad Young. You're getting big minutes from, from Miles Turner. So all these guys have just been putting up some pretty decent scores along the way. I don't like him as much on FanDuel at 92. I'd rather either go up and get LeBron or go down and get Carmelo. But on DraftKings at 84, I actually have him I had him in my cash lineup last night. The optimizer actually spit him out last night in cash too. And I think I may go with him again over there just because when you come down to him in price, I have him and Leonard in there right now because I couldn't get up to Giannis, which is what I wanted to do. But
we can't trust Gay and Cash, right? We can't trust Gay and Cash even with this matchup.
No, I don't mind Rudy Gay in tournaments. I really don't, but I don't trust him in cash because he has those games where he disappears and he doesn't score and he hangs out at the 3-point line, so he doesn't rebound. And you're just looking at the end of the game and you're like, he played 35 minutes and he finished with like 7 points, 3 rebounds, and 1 assist. And you're like, what the hell just happened? Although he's been good so far this season, so I don't mind him in tournaments. I like that Minnesota game tonight. I think that, there's going to be a lot of points there. So I think you can put a bunch of those guys together on Sacramento and Minnesota and, hope that you catch a big game on the upside that way.
Yeah, we've got a lot of new NBA subscribers, guys that have never played NBA before, and they're probably just looking at Rudy Gay's box scores, going, "Man, this guy looks consistent to me, right?" And I just made the case for him. I like Rudy Gay today, but he's certainly a little bit risky. It looks like we got Rad Thad back too, so we've got a little three-man show. Or if you need to hop off, Benny too, you can. Well, assuming Dad shows up, I just see it. Oh, there he is.
Awesome.
What's up, Dad? How you
What's
doing,
happening,
man?
gentlemen? I'm good. I'm good, man. I had to relocate. Benny, my main
What's going
man,
on, man?
Benny, brother. We got a lot of catching up to do. Benny is my man, so I haven't seen him in a long time. But dude, Benny always saving me as usual. So nothing new.
This is your crew, everyone. Like this, we got all three of us here. This is awesome.
This is awesome, man. This is awesome. Super quick story. You guys can tell me where you were, but at the DFS Players Conference in I see a dude who looks in New York. I see a dude who looks exactly like Benny, and I'm like, but he looks like spitting image, so it's freaking me out. So I finally see Benny. I go, dude, brother. And he goes, yeah, I got a brother. I said, thank God. I said, dude, I don't know if you're adopted or you guys want to hook up and rekindle or something, but it was freaking me out. So, but good to see you, Benny. Yeah. Good to see you, man.
Yeah. Well, I figured Jeff was here by himself, so I didn't want him to, he was just talking to himself. I thought he was going to go crazy for
There was a chance of it. Yeah. All of a sudden, I'm just rambling on for the next 2 hours about different point guards and stuff. Yeah. I wouldn't have known when to stop. So we're on small forwards right now, Thad. I don't know if you want to hop in here and maybe give us a take on maybe talk about your two favorite guys at the position, and we'll get on to power forward real quick.
Before I do that, I'm going to quickly give you the call that everybody thinks that I'm on my pain meds for, the full of garbage call, who I will have in one lineup. So that way, if at least if he does well, I can go on Twitter. He is the backup point guard for San Antonio. His name is Nicholas Laprovatia. Nobody's ever heard of this guy. But trust me, this dude can ball. Okay, he only has 4 minutes in his game log. But this is not like your average rookie. This dude is like they're using him as a backup while they groom their draft pick in the D League. Like I said, this dude is like 26. I saw him play in the Olympics for Team Argentina.
He's good. Yeah.
Good, dude. He's really good. So I don't know if it's going to be today or it's because the guy that they drafted, I don't think they're ever going to bring him up this season. I think it's one of those things where they're really grooming him. So in the right spots, this Nicola guy can really go off. So I'm just saying, lineup. I certainly don't expect everyone else to, but keep an eye on this kid. He's not even a kid anymore. He can really, really ball. So that's my guy. Now, that being said, while everyone's accusing me of being full of crap right now, that's cool. It's all good. I am on pain meds, so put a little asterisk by it. But as far as small forwards go, it's basically the same usual suspects. LeBron, of course. And then, we got Kawhi Leonard, who I think is a stud. I think Carmelo is a nice, sneaky tournament option. The Knicks have not played a home game yet this season, and he's ready for a home game. He's actually played pretty well on the road as well, but home game for the Knicks goes pretty well for the Knicks. So I do like him a lot. I think with guys like Butler and Paul George in the mix, Carmelo will probably be overlooked, but I think he makes a great tournament option. Did you guys talk about
good
about value guys or anything like that?
I was just going to say, so we didn't even mention the Spurs value guys yet, aside from Labry Fatella or however you say his name. Simmons, we've got Anderson, and we've got Patty Mills. Benny, are any of those guys must plays at this point? And if not, do you have a preference on any of those guys?
I wouldn't say must plays, but I do like Jonathan Simmons. It seems he's been doing more in terms of putting up actual fantasy points. I know that Kyle Anderson's been getting a lot of minutes, but he's kind of out there just moving the ball from side to side is pretty much what he's doing. He'll dribble drive a little bit and kick it out to somebody, but as far as like rebounding and scoring and, you know, setting other teammates up and going to the hole that way. He just hasn't produced the way I thought he would with the minutes he had. I think you got to like Patty Mills more now, knowing that, you know, Tony Parker is out. I didn't look at his price. How cheap is he?
He's $3,900 on FanDuel. Yeah. He's really
That's
cheap.
pretty cheap. You know, I mean, there are some other guys, like you got Ty Lawson at 52, who's playing 35 minutes a game. You got Tim Frazier at 53, who's playing 35 minutes.
I like both those guys better.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you need to go down to Patty Mills at 39 today. I mean, if you need to save money, I could understand why someone would do it. But, like, I put in Lawson and Frazier. I'm fine with paying $10K on FanDuel for 2 point guards that are seeing 35 minutes each. Like, I have no problem with that. Point guards between the assists, they just score every once in a while. They'll get some steals. Like, I think both of those guys have floors of 25 and could get 35 or more if they have a really good game.
Absolutely. Thad, your thoughts on those Spurs and if any of them are must plays?
Yeah, I agree with Benny. I don't think any of them are must plays. I think the situation is something that's with both of these guys is kind of going to be kind of in flux throughout the season. They're both very talented and they both seem to get similar minutes. But I think at the moment, Simmons is the guy who does more with the minutes that he's gotten. I think in the long run, it'll probably be Anderson. But Anderson's got to do a little more work on his game. He's not a great rebounder, not incredibly efficient with his shot. But Simmons is a guy who is pretty good shooter, you know, but is more athletic. You know, Simmons is a guy who was undrafted. So for the Spurs to have interest in a guy like him means he's got something special. So he went off that very first game, so he won't be an under the radar pick. So that's why I'm kind of off of him as well. So, you know, tournaments, as is everyone, but I think I'm going to pass tonight.
Yeah, Thad, talk to me about some power forwards that you like.
You know, I think when I talked about Carmelo, I think Carmelo it falls in that nice spot of productivity, low ownership, and value tonight, especially like on a site like FanDuel. So I'm really, really high on him. As usual, though, it's one of those positions that's very scarce. So I'm in tournaments, you know, in it's LeBron and whoever else I can fit in there reasonably. It's not going to clobber my team. In which case I may have to go with either Anderson or Simmons, you know, in a cash game. In tournament, it's going to be I'm trying to double up on Beefcake there, Carmelo and Leonard or Carmelo and George, you know, try to get some guys that can really do some damage that most people won't pair up in terms of paying up for. But it's a very scarce position today, so kind of tough.
What about power forward though? Are there any power forwards that you like?
Yeah, power forward. In terms of just liking them in general, like I said before, we could talk about Anthony Davis forever. So if you guys want to talk about that separately, that's fine. So
I'm fading him. Is that crazy? I'm fading him.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's the same situation that we had him in last night. Nothing changes at all. He's a guy who is.
I think the matchup's pretty tough, though. I mean, right?
Yeah. No. The matchup is tough, but he's a guy who incredibly skilled, but like not the first guy on my radar. You know, I even mentioned it in the article that it's kind of messed up that this guy has put up an incredible amount of fantasy points, and he's still not. As far as I'm concerned. So it's one of those situations, you know. So he's tournament worthy. I wouldn't go with him in cash games. Just like we said last time, can he put up 75? Sure. Can he stumble up and put up 35? Sure. So that makes him tournament for me. My cash game guy, I think I'm going to go back to that New York homecoming and go with Kristaps Porzingis. I think he's another guy who falls into a nice category for upside and productivity and, you know, nice value play. So I'm using him in both cash and tournaments. But luckily, lots of other options at power forward. Paul Millsap, you know, LaMarcus Aldridge. I mean, it's one of those you're not forced to play Anthony Davis. So a lot of picks. So, but those are my main guys today. Millsap
was earlier. I could tell you how many points he had.
Right. Oh, tell me. I want to know. I want to know for him. Tell me if I would have rostered him.
I'm pulling him up right now. As I'm doing that, Benny, why don't you talk about some power forwards you like?
Yeah, well, that touched on a couple of the guys in the high range, so I'll take some of the guys that are a little bit lower there. I'm a big fan of Jabari Parker today. First game that they had out there, they played a much slower paced team in Charlotte. Now they're going up against Brooklyn, who's a team that's running up and down the floor. You got no Brook Lopez today for Brooklyn, so you're going to be looking at guys like Trevor Booker, Justin Hamilton down there. I don't think he's going to have any problem scoring and rebounding. I think he puts up a double-double. He's about $6,000 on both of the sites, so I think he's a very good value. And with the up tempo that they're going to be playing, I think he's somebody who has upside to get you 35, 40 fantasy points today. He's in the same price range as like Jokic and Gorgie Dang. I know that the optimizer keeps spitting out Jokic. I am way more on Jabari Parker and Gorgie Dang than I am today over on Jokic. And part of the reason is, look at that matchup for Dang. They're going up against Sacramento. Sacramento was the fastest paced team in the league last year. They gave up the third most fantasy points. They gave up the third most points overall or second most points overall. Anybody on that Minnesota team is in play for me. Any of the guys who are in that mid range, like I don't even hate Zach LaVine at 5,600. I think you're going to get outperformance from all those mid range guys on Minnesota. So, Dang is another one I like. And then even with Cody Zeller back and Frank Kaminsky playing, I still really like Marvin Williams as well, down in like the $5,000 range on both sites. I think he's a good guy to save some money at the power forward spot. Put up a 30-plus fantasy points in the first game. I think he could do the same thing. At the price he's at, that's giving you basically 6x value if he can get there again. So Marvin Williams, another guy that I'm looking at in that mid-range.
Yeah, Marvin Williams, I just happened upon last night as I was adjusting my cash game lineups, with the late Dallas news and everything. I think a lot of people were scrambling. I ended up not going with Powell, not having a starting lineup or anything. Ended up going to Marvin Williams, and it worked out well. He had a really nice game, especially a really good first half. Thad, let me throw it back to you, man. Is there anyone else you want to touch on before we get on to center? We've got about 5 minutes left.
Not really. I just want to reiterate what Benny said, though. I think the Marvin Williams call is phenomenal. I thought he was going to be sneaky, but the optimizer did pop him out. So I actually was pretty impressed. He had a fracture on his non-shooting hand, which I was a little worried about, but he's come out and played well, especially no Frank Kaminsky. The Roy Hibbert resurgence has been put on hold. So I think he's going to get a lot of run. And we spoke a few games ago about Jabari Parker and how I think pairing him up with the alphabet, especially in tournaments, is a great idea. I think this could be the game where if he gets his double-double and Antetokounmpo gets his triple-double, those are two guys that you're really going to want to have in your lineup. So just kind of reiterating what Benny said, which I think are great picks.
Yeah, I agree with all those guys. Those are pretty much all guys on my cheat sheet. The guy that I like the most is Gorgie Jang, a guy that Benny talked about for a while for the same reasons Benny mentioned. So let's move on to center. Like I said, about 4 minutes left now, but DeMarcus Cousins is the most expensive guy on the list. Is it possible to pay up for him with all the other expensive guys in really good spots that we like today, Benny?
I think you can pay up for him. If you can pay up for like him and Giannis, then you're forced to go like Kawhi and either a lower price small forward or something like that. I don't think you can get him, LeBron, and Giannis, or him, LeBron, Giannis, and Lillard. Like I think you have to pick two of those four. And I actually like him. He is somebody that I have. The problem is if you look over on like FanDuel, I'm a big fan of Nurkic today, and he's only 4,900. And I was actually looking at Jordan Hamilton when I heard that Brook Lopez wasn't going to play, and I'm like, why am I going to spend 48 on Hamilton when for $100 more I could have, Nurkic in that spot, which is a good spot for Nurkic that I think he'll do well against, Portland Bigs. So I've kind of been using him a lot over on FanDuel. On DraftKings, I felt like there's enough cheap value, like there usually is, those guys in the 3,000-4,000 range that you can throw one or two in. That if you want to fit DeMarcus Cousins in over there, I feel like it's easier to do. So I do have a little bit of Cousins over there. I mean, I think Cousins is going to have a big game. I don't think he's not going to. This guy, what he put up the other night, 37 and 15 or something like that. I mean, he's a monster when he wants to be. And I think this is going to be one of those high-paced, high-scoring games. So it's a great spot for him. I just haven't paid up all over for him because I think there's enough value elsewhere at center that, you know, he's not a must play. But I have no problem. If you have 10,600 left over on DraftKings and a utility spot, you put him in and you don't even think twice about it.
Everyone's going cheap at center today. You've got Mason Plumlee on DraftKings. It's like 4K or something, 4,300. That's a ridiculous price. And he's even a fair price on FanDuel, 5,300. I think Nurkic is going to be somewhat chalky as well. And he has more upside than any of these guys, especially Hamilton. Like, Hamilton's nice. He's going to have a high floor for you. I think he's a good play today. But he's not the same guy as Nurkic, in my opinion. I think Nurkic is just a massive, massive upside. So, Thad, sum up the position for us. What are you looking at? Are you spending down with the masses, or are you looking to spend up to be contrarian?
Yeah, I'm definitely in my cash games, depending on the site. I'm spending down with the masses, especially like on a site like FanDuel. I think, as far as I'm concerned, Nurkic is really the only option for me on FanDuel when in my cash games. And as a result, I'm trying to get in there for my tournaments. You know, I think it's just like what Benny said, just by sheer roster construction. If you start off with Boogie and then throw in Antetokounmpo, you by default cannot roster some of these other guys that are going to be very popular. So you'll end up with a high upside, low owned lineup. And I think I'm willing to go that route. I think the same thing goes for FanDuel. I mean, the same thing goes for DraftKings. I'm just going with Boogie, but in a tournament, I'm going to flip the script and maybe try to go with someone like Nurkic, and because I can use that money elsewhere. But a lot less depth at center today than there has been for most of the season.
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a few guys that I like, but I just think that there are 3 or 4 that are just really good. So it really narrows what you're able to do. Like, for me, I like Dedmon today. I think he's going to play a decent amount of minutes because they're going to try to use him to shut down Anthony Davis. But I don't know if I can play him just because Nurkic is definitely a better play and Plumlee's a better play and Hamilton's probably a better play. So it's like it'll take quite a few lineups for me to get to that point to where I want to differentiate that much.
Right.
That said, I might end up there. We'll see. Benny, final thoughts on the slate overall. We are at 3 o'clock West Coast time now, 6 o'clock East Coast time, about an hour away from lock. Final thoughts, Benny.
Yeah, I'm using a lot of Kawhi Leonard and a lot of the cheap point guard. So I have a lot of Ty Lawson and a lot of Frazier today. And by doing that, you have money to spend up at other positions. So if you start with those pieces, you know, you're going to like a lot of what you wind up with at the end.
Thad, final words for everyone.
Yeah, great tournament slate, in my opinion. You know, this is a slate where you can experiment with some of those pairings that we've spoken about throughout the weeks. You know, the Antetokounmpo, Jabari Parker, or you know, if you want Kawhi, Carmelo Anthony and Porzingis, 2 guys that I'm interested in pairing up. And if you want to go back to the well and do a Frazier Davis combo, if you've been on that combo for the first couple of games of the season, you're feeling pretty good about yourself. So nice day to experiment with combos. I just Googled the meaning of Nicholas Laprovita's last name for San Antonio, and it means rad fat is full of hot garbage. So I don't know if you want to go with the literal last name or not. But I'm gonna take. You know, yeah, it's tough to come up with some of these translations, but I'm telling you, man, serious for real. So I'm gonna roll with him in at least one lineup, just so I can say I rostered him. But that's it, man. It's just a good Saturday for NBA.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I think that what sums up my approach on NBA today is that I'm fading Anthony Davis, and because basically Greg Popovich is the Bill Belichick of basketball, he's able to do a pretty good job at eliminating a team's weapon if they only have one. Like, I don't think he's going to be too worried about a lot of these other options on the Pelicans, and he is going to do whatever he can to shut down Anthony Davis, and he has the tools to do it, is the thing too, with Kawhi Leonard and some of the guys there. So I fully realize that this is probably going to come back and bite me, that Anthony Davis still has upside in this matchup, but I'm willing to take a chance there, especially with guys like Giannis that I can pay up for, that I'm super excited about their upside. appreciate Benny, you hopping on, man, taking time out of your day to save me so I wasn't talking to myself. And it was really fun to get the whole crew on here, the whole NBA crew on here talking basketball, man. Maybe we can do it again sometime. But thank you to everyone who watched, and we will catch you guys next time.